One serene afternoon, Joe, a modest farmer, was carrying out his daily chores when a distressed woman appeared out of nowhere. Her car broken down and stranded on the side of the road. Little did Joe know, this brief encounter would lead to an unexpected and life-altering experience. What began as a simple act of kindness would eventually change his world forever, especially when she stepped into his barn. Curious to know what happened next? Keep reading. Welcome back, everyone, to Tales Unveiled. Let's dive right in. Joe was a 42-year-old farmer who lived on the outskirts of the city with his wife and their 2 daughters. As the only child of 2 dedicated farmers, Joe had a deep connection to the land from an early age. He fondly recalls running around with the horses, milking cows, and even helping his father repair their farm equipment and trucks. Despite the financial struggles his parents faced, they worked tirelessly to provide for their family. Joe's father even drove him a long distance to school each day because the bus couldn't reach their isolated neighborhood. Though Joe had a natural inclination toward farming, his parents had big dreams for him. They encouraged him to go to college, hoping he would become a successful businessman. Although Joe didn't share that vision, he agreed to study business management, aiming to please his parents. After college, he secured a job that many would consider a great opportunity. But as time went on, Joe realized that the corporate world wasn't where he truly belonged. After 5 years, he decided to quit, feeling a strong pull to return to the farm. Joe was anxious about how his parents would react, but to his surprise, they weren't upset. Instead, they were proud of him for following his heart. After returning to manage the family farm, Joe's parents unfortunately passed away. His father from a short illness and his mother 3 years later. Now, it was Joe's responsibility to carry on the family legacy. Gratefully, Joe was married to Alice, his supportive wife, and together they raised their daughters on the farm. But despite Alice's work outside the farm, money was still tight, especially with the expanded farm needing constant care and attention. One afternoon, Joe was in the barn doing what he loved most, milking a cow, when he overheard a woman screaming in frustration not far from his barn. Curious, Joe went outside to investigate. There, he saw a woman in her early 30s standing over the open hood of a car, clearly having trouble. "Everything all right, ma'am?" Joe asked, approaching her. "Does everything look all right?" the woman snapped in frustration. But when she noticed the surprised and sympathetic expression on Joe's face, she immediately apologized. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm just having a really bad day. Of all places, my car breaks down right here in the middle of nowhere." Joe smiled gently. "It's all right, no need to apologize. We all have days like that." The woman looked around. "Do you live nearby?" Joe nodded, pointing to his farm. "Yep, that's my farm over there with my family. Mind if I take a look at your car?" Joe offered. The woman raised an eyebrow, chuckling slightly. "You're a farmer. Do you actually know anything about cars?" Joe gave a confident smile. "More than you might think. Let me take a look. I might be able to help." "All right, go ahead," she said, a bit skeptical but willing to try anything at this point. Without wasting any time, Joe inspected the engine. After a few minutes of tinkering, he stepped back and gestured for her to try turning the key. To her surprise, the car roared to life. "Oh my gosh, it worked!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up with relief. "I'm so sorry I doubted you. Thank you so much." Joe smiled warmly. "No need to thank me. I'm Celine, by the way." "What's your name?" she asked. "Joe," he replied, extending his hand. "Joe, you're my knight in shining armor. I honestly don't know what I would have done without you," Celine said gratefully. Joe chuckled. "You're welcome, Celine. Are you thirsty? Why don't you come inside for a drink?" "I'd love that. And I've never been on a real farm before. Maybe I can even take a little tour," Celine replied with a smile. "Of course. My wife and I will show you around," Joe said, eager to offer her a warm welcome. After heading inside, they were greeted by Alice, who was busy preparing lunch in the kitchen. "Hello, Celine. So nice to meet you. You came at the perfect time. Lunch is ready." Alice said, beaming. "Oh, I'm actually full already," Celine said quickly, but just as she finished speaking, her stomach growled loudly, making everyone laugh. "No, please, we insist," Joe said, gesturing toward the table. "Well, since you asked so kindly, I guess I can't say no," Celine replied, sitting down. An hour later, after enjoying a delicious meal together, Joe and Alice took Celine on a tour of their farm. As they walked, Celine asked, "Do you name all of your animals?" "Of course we do. How else would we keep track of them?" Joe said with a laugh. He gestured toward a horse. "This is Frederick. He's one of our sweetest horses." Celine hesitated before asking, "Can I pet him?" Alice smiled. "Sure, Frederick is very friendly." Celine gently petted the horse, and it nudged her affectionately. As they continued their walk through the barn, Celine did something unexpected. Joe noticed her scribbling something on a piece of paper, but he didn't pay much attention at first. After a few minutes, she surprised them both by handing them a check. "What's this?" Joe asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "Consider it a parting gift," Celine said, offering the check with a smile. Joe, shocked by the gesture, tried to return the check. "This is too much. We can't accept this." Celine gently pushed his hand away. "Please, Joe. You were kind to me when I needed help, and now I want to repay that kindness. You mentioned that the farm is struggling, and this money will make a big difference." Alice's eyes widened. "But it's so much money." Celine nodded. "Exactly. And a hard-working, kind couple like you deserves it." Joe and Alice exchanged a look. They could see that Celine was sincere, and after a moment of hesitation, they took the check. Tears welled up in their eyes as they hugged her. "Thank you so much, Celine. You have no idea how much this means to us," Joe said, his voice full of emotion. "No, I should be the one thanking you for your kindness and hospitality," Celine replied, her voice soft. "I have to leave now, it's a long drive back to town, but I hope we'll meet again soon." As Celine drove away, Joe and Alice stood there watching her car disappear from sight. They hugged each other tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. "This feels like a dream," Alice whispered. "No, honey, it's not a dream," Joe said, his voice full of excitement. "This is our new reality. With this money, we can do the things we've been struggling to do." In the weeks that followed, Joe and Alice used the money wisely. They invested it in the farm, purchasing new equipment, replacing the old, unreliable machinery, and even expanding their barn and buying more animals. The changes they made dramatically improved their lives, and they were finally able to live comfortably once again. And so, Joe's simple act of kindness to a stranger in need ultimately led to a life-changing gift. He had no expectations of a reward, yet by helping Celine, he not only gave her a moment of relief but also received something that would transform his life.